Good afternoon and welcome to the range. I'm Seth and I've been making bows. But not today. I've got something a little bit different today. Today is a good day because I've been commissioned. I've been asked to go back to my roots and make some sticks. We've got a fella in London who's asked for a stick what's 1.5 meters with a nice sturdy handle on top for beating on the ground. Part of his ministry. So I'm going to take that up for him. And then we've got a fella in America who is after one for his brother. His brother came to England years ago, decades ago, in fact the guy said, and bought a used stick while he was over here. I forget where he said he was in the States. But he had a car crash, the fella's brother, and his stick was broken in the car crash. Hope you're alright, fella. Your stick might have saved you, or hopefully didn't cause more damage. But anyways, he's after a stick for his brother's birthday, so we're going to do that for him as well. So it's a good chance to talk about sticks, because this is how I started making bows. Let's grab a used stick. Whoa, don't trip over the plant. Yeah, it was all part of the reason I started woodwork was to make things to sell on eBay. I ran out of stock, ran low on stock. I figured, well, I've got dead time and no stock, I should make some stock. And it became, it really got driven home when I was helping my brother through a rough spot, and woodwork became, something we had to do to occupy ourselves. And it grew from there. This was his suggestion, in fact, doing the Shillelagh walking stick. Irish fighting stick is what they are. They are also a very nice, attractive walking stick, or hiking stick. I think your classic Shillelagh was made from blackthorn, which is a slow bush, I believe, but would be growing up in Ireland. I don't think we have it down here. But you can make it out of oak and be historically accurate. But what I did was make them out of yew. Came across a piece of yew. I didn't even realise it was yew. It's how I learned yew, in fact. We were out for a walk in our local woods, having a forage, looking for some mushrooms, and my brother mentioned that we should make a walking stick for Dad. So while we were out walking, we just looked for a piece of wood that was, appropriately shaped like this. It was a bit more bald than this, and a bit more bent than this. Yeah, to make one for Dad. And it turns out, once we started cutting it, it was bright orange, which obviously made me start asking the question: what is it? What wood is it we got here? And then from learning about you, naturally found out that is what you make a long bow out of, and that's how I ended up here making bows and shooting them on the range. Not today though, because I sliced the tip of my finger open and I was wiping off my draw knife, getting ready to do this. So here we are. Yeah. So we got the yew ones. Bring them up a little bit closer. I haven't got my front-facing camera, so I don't know if they're in frame. But they're gorgeous. Almost looks like the details are printed on. Really very cool. Got these up for sale on eBay. Sweet Chariot England on eBay. You see, once I've done them in yew, and they sold in yew as well. I sold a whole bunch of them. I sold I think it's 4 to guys in America, and then a bunch to people here. It was always good to get an order from up in Yorkshire. I like the idea of a Yorkshireman walking around with one of my sticks. And then after I did sold a whole bunch of yew ones, I asked myself what else might sell. So I tried some ash. I wasn't stoked by the ash. I mean, it makes a good stick because it's shock absorbent, and it's not unattractive. I think you sort of burn it and dye it to make it look nicer. I'm pretty surprised this one hasn't sold though. So I'm really happy with the shape of it. I've sold a bunch. I guess the ones that I'm left with are the ones that are pretty in Daddy's eyes. It's a bit of maple here as well. We've got lots of maple and ash local, so it seemed like a sensible choice for trying some other woods. Yeah, it's these burrs and knots. I see it makes it more difficult to work on the wood, but it's what makes it end up looking pretty. I guess the thing to remember from these, it's some of the same principles, but then opposite principles as well. So like a bow, working with you, as you're working away, to leave the material that you want, you've got to be mindful of the structure of the thing. You know, you can't allow it to get too bendy, violate any knots that are gonna cause it to crack and just be a weak spot, obviously. And then to make it stiff. And then with a bow, obviously the principle is slightly different. You're trying to maintain the structure of the thing, but in a way that makes it bend. So yeah, there is some engineering to be considered when you're doing these, because especially with yew sticks, it's yew. It likes to bend, so you got to make sure it's good and straight. Yeah. So what am I going to do with Matey Boy's sticks here? I guess a good time to go through the tools. I'm going to spend the next couple of hours doing this before I do my van work this evening. I've probably done myself out pretty good. Yeah, the whole idea with this, first you got to find yourself a nice stick. You want a burr, so this is where another branch comes out, and then a nice long shaft coming off of that. It's a perfect example of this one. This little bit in here is probably going to be quite interesting where it's been exposed. And what we're going to do, the knot is going to become a handle. So we've got to thin this down and leave a nice narrow neck, obviously. So flapping these are very sharp. I'll flap this guy around. So you try and leave a nice grip shaped sort of ball at the top there, and then narrow this neck down here so it becomes a pole that you can then chase down the rest of the stick. So first things first is to go in with some sort of saw around the middle, a little bit like how you'd make a mallet, or a maul, sorry, out of a lump of wood. You're just going to check your depth, go straight in around the top of the handle there, and create a level mark to then go in with your knife. Because once you cut these grains, you'll be able to cut towards the handle, and the depth of the grain will hopefully stop it diving, and then slowly but surely you'll be able to work it towards a point where it's pole width, something about that. Imagine that sat underneath. Yeah, it is a simple project. They are harder to pull off than you think, but when you do, they're very, very pretty. So yeah, cut that through there. In case of taking your draw knife, running them down, getting rid of that bark, thinning it down gently, slowly but surely, being mindful of the knots, just like you would with a bow. Just be careful, because your knife's going to want to stop in your knots. It hasn't got even grains running through there. Knife might hit it and rip a knot out, which could write your stick off. So yeah, good time to mention the next tool. I just went and picked up a replacement blade for my, what does that say? It's a Stanley Surform rasp, Ferrier's rasp, I believe that is. This guy is what you take to your knots, because that's going to shred through your knots rather than trying to cut through it. If you've got a nice sharp blade and you're nice and gentle, you can do it. But the rasp as a tool I just wouldn't be without, considering how many problems it solved for me. Rip something up and you don't want it to dive, you're right. You're taking a whole bunch of material away, you've got a nice diameter for your stick now you've got to be very careful. If you dive, there's no room for error anymore. You've used it all up, used up all your margin. So once you've taken the meat away, as you do with sculpting, you can start with big cuts and then you move smaller and smaller tools. Another good tool to mention would be spoke plane, slightly more controlled version of the draw knife. I love that draw knife, and yeah, this one needs a good sharpen. So I've used just a homemade one. Cost me a tenner on eBay, this one. It's worn down pretty good in here and it needs a bit of a sharpen. The draw knife and the rasp do really very well. And once you've got past the rasping stage, let's bring out one of these sticks for comparison. Let's bring this guy up. It's probably a closer comparison. Yeah, once you pass the rasping stage, you should be more or less at this point. Then it's a case of trying to get rid of your tooling marks. Then you move to your 60 grit sandpapers, remembering that you're going to lose strength. Yeah, look at the grains in that. It's awesome. Yeah, you're going to lose strength even as you go down through your 60 grit. But of course, to remove all your tooling marks, you've got to remove a certain amount of material. So yeah, the finishing is all about being mindful about the sculpting process and getting it down to being smooth as eggs like this. Oh, look at that. That's what you get if you stick with it. A bit of mould mark on the front there. And you get it super smooth and nicely oiled. That's the next thing to mention, your oil. These guys, I wouldn't do it with the 60 grit. Once you get to, you know, done most of your sculpting and got your tooling marks gone, wipe it down with oil and then maybe do a few deep soaks between 60 and 120 grit. So once you go past 120 grit, the oil doesn't really soak up the dust, blocks it up. But I do like to use oil between all of the grits of sandpaper to help lift dust up out the way. And it, yeah, seems to work. You end up being able to see into the wood. Lots and lots of grains, lots and lots of detail. And super smooth and comfortable. That's something to mention. You've got a hand. Handles are easy. You shape it until it feels comfortable. And with our hands take lots of things. Imagine a climbing wall. Rock climbing wall, climbing centre, something like that. There'll be all manner of different shapes. Hand is fascinating. These seem to be, whenever I've sold one to someone online, well, not every time, but most of the time, we've had a good old chin wag. They've been happy to tell me my sticks look wonderful, and then sort of go on to talk about how special they've been in some sort of way. But I think this is something that becomes very important in senior years, to have a stick. I mean, forget the importance of it just as a human being. It's like it's our first tool, isn't it? A human with a stick is a different human. Fend things off, you can steady yourself, you can get things you just wouldn't be able to, you can reach stuff. Self-defense, yeah, they're special things. So the making of them is good fun. If you appreciate the beauty of the wood, it's a good way to unlock it and just demonstrate it and turn it into a beautiful practical thing. The exact same thing I like about bows, just sort of a representation, appreciation for the natural world. And they are just so pretty. Right, I better get on with them. I'm procrastinating because the spoke horse, you lock the pole into the spoke horse down there, is hard work. Bit by bit. Right. Wish me luck, because after I do these sticks, I'm going to do that Japanese Iumi, the Japanese longbow. I'm going to get at least a little bit out of the way and crack on with that. So I'll do a video of that soon. Thanks so much, everybody. I will catch you again soon. Yep.